Great. So small crew today for our weekly retro. Looks like I have the first item on the agenda for what went not so well. Uh, yeah, it was just a distracted week for me. Just coming back home, having all our friends be like, "Well, we have to see you now," and looking for an apartment. And my sister randomly popped into town for a conference yesterday, so it felt like I was really unsettled and distracted this week. But on a positive note, we filled out a lease application for a lease, and hopefully we'll have an apartment to live in more permanently than living this Airbnb life that we've been on for like the past year and a half. So. Yeah, other than that, it was okay. I could read Dan's. He has a few here. I don't feel like I've done a great job getting back up to speed from being out at the CEO Shadow program. Dan, if you're watching this, I think you've been doing a great job. I feel that we haven't been communicating as well as a team. Maybe that's because peeps are all busy and I've been out. We could maybe unpack that more. And my days often have a few meetings. I'm not sure they're the right ones. Okay, Ian, I think you're up next.
Yeah, so I was also a little distracted. There was a conference here in Amsterdam that I was kind of attending. So that distracted me for about half the week. And I was stumbling a little bit this week, just understanding the timing with the GitLab milestones and when things are due and when things start and stop. So that was kind of tricky this week to figure out.
Cool.
Nick?
Okay, so for me then, I guess I was pretty disappointed that I wasn't really able to progress those issues that the users care about, that like the sorting of the packages list and potentially deleting the single item from the repository. Even though they weren't like, they're potentially not happening in this milestone, it still would have been nice to be able to like push those forward a little bit. And like, I have this sort of feeling in the back of my head that it just feels like I'm always referring to the back end and like trying to shift it. And it's just not, that's how I hate being like that. I would love to just sort of take complete ownership of these things and see them through. But I'm trying to be like, yeah, I just don't know Rails well enough to be able to do that, unfortunately.
Would you want to learn Rails more and be able to do that? Or you would prefer to just focus on the front end?
No, absolutely. Like I am trying to learn, like I'm doing the course as well. It's just that I'm finding it really hard to balance like how much I should really learn Rails versus like doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and unfortunately I just haven't had enough, like with the holiday and stuff like that kind of through. I was on a fairly decent sort of stack, but then I went on holiday and that sort of like has thrown me off, and I haven't done too much since I've come back. Yeah, so I mean I really just need to knuckle down and put some effort in.
Yeah, I was on a really good path with the training too. I mean, obviously a different level. I'm super beginner, and then we had vacation and then the month of August. So now I'm hoping, once we like kind of move into our place, we'll be able to get back to doing the Ruby training, which was really fun.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna like do the same and like actually put some effort and then try and move it forward. But that does mean that like right now I'm not really in the position where I can do too much. I mean, I did try. I was looking at the code, but the issue, and Daniel brought this up a while ago, the issue that I'm having specifically with Rails is there's quite a lot of magic or implicity. Like you do something and then 5 or 6 things happen in the background and I don't know what those things are. So it's really hard for me to figure it out where I'm totally used to just like diving in and like if everything's explicit, it's fine, it's easy because I can just Google what does this do, and right, this is how you do this, and that it's there because if it isn't there, it's not there, but that's not the case with Rails. Anyway, sorry.
That's good. And that's different than JavaScript, which is much more like just verbose. It says you have to explicitly state everything. There's not as much magic going on. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Okay, so what went well? I have the first 2 items on here. The user interviews and customer calls this week both went really well. I'm really impressed with how much our users read our issues and follow our updates. One call with the customer and they were saying they read all of our strategy and direction pages, which is awesome. I didn't know that people read those. So I think that's it's really cool to see that our users and customers are super engaged. And The second one is I thought the GitHub CI discussion was really cool. We had all of the whole team basically that watched the video and chimed in, and we're talking about that. And overall, I thought GitLab handled it really well as a company, which was really cool to see. It's cool to be a part of a company that's like making smart decisions with branding and marketing. Okay, I'll read Dan's. The CEO Shadow program was awesome and has really helped me make sense of a few things. I shouldn't comment on Dan's, but I agree. I think that Dan came back with some really interesting perspective about some stuff, so it was really helpful. He's happy to be back. He's finding a better work-life balance for himself and making good progress on the container registry direction. Okay, Ian, you're up.
Yes, so one really big thing that happened this week is Tim and I worked together on creating this really great survey that we're going to be sending out to our users to figure out what data actually matters to them and what doesn't. I'm especially excited because the way the survey is set up, the data is very dynamic, so we can compare a lot of different kind of segments of users compared to different needs. So we're going to get a lot of robust information out of one 10-minute survey. So that's pretty solid. And then another big win is that I finally wrapped up kind of the UX side of the research efforts that Tim started with those user interviews. And then we'll be sharing out kind of the overall findings at some point here soon. Up next is Nick.
Cool. I'm looking forward to seeing both of those, by the way, when the results are released. So for me, I made some good progress with the sorting component this week. So at the end of last week, it was in a relatively, it worked, but I wasn't entirely sure how I'd done it was the right way of doing it. And early this week, I was able to speak with another front-end engineer and sort of firm that up. So I'm pretty happy with how it is right now. We just need to wait on its dependencies now to be updated, and then it should be ready to go. Multi-select deletion got merged this week, which is great. That obviously took a lot longer than I was expecting, and it was a mix of things. But one of the big things there was that this particular UI pattern hadn't been used anywhere else in GitLab, so there was a lot of discussion about the pros and cons to that and the best way of doing it. And then because it had never been used anywhere else in GitLab before, there was no standard way for the code to look either. So there was quite a bit of review around that. But it's there now, it's got merged, and hopefully that will go be deployed soon.
And that includes also Gigi's fix too, right? So to delete only the tag that you selected. So I think both of those are being merged together.
I think they're both being merged at the same time. They're not. It's not one MR for both issues, but I think there's two MRs, and I think they're both going to get merged and deployed at the same time.
That's such an improvement for our users. Going through the backlog and seeing how many issues people have complained about those two things combined is awesome. It took a while, but I think this is maybe one of the most valuable things that we've done so far as a team. So I'm really excited about it.
I think it's really good. I think it's really going to be a really useful feature, and it's going to set out usability for the container registry moving forward as well. So with the UI updates, we can still maintain this feature and hopefully expand on it so it goes across pagination and things like that as well. So it'll be really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Next one was starting to do more reviewing of code this week. So I had a few of other people's MRs to review. It's nice to do that actually, because you get to see more of the code base than just the package tree or container registry sort of section. So it's really good to be able to do that, and just more exposure and learning other ways of how things work. And then finally, I've been looking at the package detail view page today and yesterday because I've been assigned the Conan UI issue. So the Conan packages actually have different parameters or different detail that needs to be displayed, including I think it's a settings panel or something, which is a new piece of UI entirely. So I was looking at that, and I think, what I'm hoping to do is to convert that page from HAML to Vue, which will give us a lot more flexibility there with what we can do and how we can lay it out and that kind of stuff, and allow us to take advantage of some more reusability as well. So, and this was a direction that Nathan had started with this, and he had done it in HAML, and then somebody pointed out to him to consider doing it using Vue instead. So I'm just sort of, at the minute, I'm just validating that. I've got a working proof of concept, and what I'm hoping to do is invite some feedback back from that next week, and then just progress that depending on what the feedback is.
That's awesome. And so that some of the better features or other features we'll be able to implement is easier sorting, maybe? Was that one thing?
Yeah, although that's the packages list, so that's the page above it. So this is something that I was going to actually ask about, because or encourage some feedback about, because it may be worth doing that and turning that into Vue at the same time, not necessarily in the same MR, but just sort of like at the same time considering moving that to Vue. Although I haven't explored that, so I probably need to speak to Sarah about that, because I think she's doing some UI work in that area, so for the NPM tags and things like that. So it might be worth just liaising with her to figure that out. So it's very very early stages at this moment in time. But one thing I have noticed is that switching it to Vue will allow us to use the standard modal when you delete a package, which right now it's not. It's just using like a browser alert, so it's just like an alert dialog. So that would bring some more consistency across the UI.
That'll be nice. That'll be a nice change. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, thank you everyone, and hope you all have a nice weekend if you want, if you decide to, and I'll talk to you later.